You ever notice how quiet it gets when you're hurting? Like the whole world suddenly steps back and watches you fall apart piece by piece, as if it's afraid to interrupt. The people disappear, the noise fades, and all that's left is you and the pain. The kind that doesn't scream, it whispers. It creeps into your thoughts, your breath, your bones, until even silence hurts. And in that moment, when it feels like you've reached the edge of what a human heart can take, something shifts. Because even the heavens can't stand to watch you break any further. That's when the unseen decides, enough. Pain is the mirror you can't ignore. You try to run from it, hide from it, pretend it isn't there, but it follows. It waits in corners, in shadows, in quiet moments when no one else is looking. It shows up in your chest, in your stomach, in the tremor of your hands, in the ache of your bones. People think pain is weakness. They call it misfortune. They try to cover it with noise, with distraction, with smiles that don't reach their eyes. But pain isn't weakness, it's the truth speaking, and truth doesn't knock politely. It barges in, uninvited, untamed, and it refuses to leave until you look at it square in the face. You feel it creeping through your veins, don't you? That slow, relentless pressure that makes everything heavier than it should be. That's not just suffering. That's clarity in disguise. Pain has a way of stripping everything fake away. It tears off the masks. It breaks down the walls. It exposes the parts of you you've been too scared to meet. And it doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for comfort or readiness. It arrives like a storm, and all you can do is face it or let it consume you. Most people choose the latter because facing yourself is harder than hiding. But that's where the growth hides, in the parts that scare you most. Pain teaches things you can't learn any other way. You think lessons come softly, with gentle guidance and kind whispers. But no, real lessons come sharp, unexpected, in moments that knock the air out of your lungs. When your heart feels like it might stop, when your body trembles from the weight of it all, when you're staring into the abyss, wondering if you can ever get up again, that's when you learn. That's when the world strips away your illusions and shows you the raw bones of reality. And it's terrifying, but it's necessary, because you can't build strength without the fire, and fire is never polite. And the strange thing is, pain isn't always yours alone. Sometimes it's shared, passed through the universe, reflected back in ways you can't control. You watch someone else break, and it feels like your own chest is being ripped open. You see injustice, cruelty, loss, and it gnaws at your insides like it belongs to you. That's because the world doesn't separate us, it tests us. It forces us to feel, to empathize, to recognize the fragility of existence. And if you pay attention, you realize that pain isn't punishment, it's participation. It's proof you're awake, alive, and capable of witnessing truth without flinching. People fear pain because they misunderstand it. They think it's a trap, a curse, a failure. But pain is a language. It's not here to destroy you, it's here to teach you. To peel away the lies you tell yourself, the pretenses you cling to, the false comfort you've built around your heart. Every tear, every scream, every restless night is a syllable in the story your soul is screaming to tell. And if you listen closely, you realize the story isn't about suffering, it's about awakening. It's about seeing what was hidden beneath the noise of ordinary life, and finally facing it. You think you can ignore it, but the body doesn't lie. Your chest tightens, your jaw aches, your eyes sting. Your hands shake, everything about you protests the suppression. Pain insists on being acknowledged. It refuses to be smothered under pretense. It refuses to be silenced by distraction. It demands truth. And the longer you resist, the louder it becomes, until you have no choice but to face it. That's the irony of suffering. It's relentless, yes, but it's also liberating. The weight that crushes you today is shaping the strength that will hold you tomorrow. Funny thing about pain, it doesn't care about timing. It shows up whether you're ready or not. It interrupts dinners, sleep plans, and even your bravest illusions of control. But that's the beauty of it. Pain doesn't negotiate. It doesn't ask politely. It forces honesty. It forces presence. It forces awareness. It teaches that survival is not about hiding, and victory is not about comfort. Every heartbeat you feel in the depth of it is proof that you're still here, still breathing, still able to endure, still capable of transforming the unbearable into insight. And the truth you gain from pain doesn't come cheaply. It doesn't arrive wrapped in ribbons or applause. It comes in quiet moments when no one notices, in nights spent staring at ceilings, in conversations you have with yourself where you confront your own fear and doubt. It comes when you finally accept that you are not your suffering, but that it is part of the fire forging who you are. And if you lean into it, if you refuse to run, if you allow it to carve you instead of crush you, you realize something extraordinary. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is the unveiling. Pain is the proof that what you are becoming is far greater than what you were. The body, the heart, the soul, they all carry the scars of this teaching. Every tremor, every ache, every tear is a mark of awakening, a signal that you are alive enough to witness it, strong enough to endure it, brave enough to transform it. Pain doesn't come to destroy you. Just think it does, until you realize it's the exact mechanism through which you are reborn, sharpened, and finally aligned with the truth you've been avoiding for far too long. Suffering has a way of finding everyone eventually. No one is exempt, no matter how strong, how clever, or how careful they try to be. It creeps in like a shadow in a crowded room, silent, unnoticed at first, until suddenly it's everywhere, pressing, suffocating, unavoidable. People run from it, distract themselves, numb themselves with noise and motion, but it doesn't matter. Suffering doesn't negotiate. It doesn't care about your plans, your happiness, your illusions of control. It simply arrives, uninvited, and forces you to face something you've been avoiding, whether you want to or not. And in that confrontation, you learn something about yourself that no comfort ever could teach. You feel it in your chest first, usually, a tightness that won't let you breathe normally. Your thoughts spin like a carousel, a mix of regret, fear, anger, and confusion. And for some reason, it's all amplified in the quiet moments. People try to explain it away as temporary, as something that will pass. But those who have sat long enough with it know better. Suffering is not something that passes. It is something that speaks. It communicates through the body, the mind, the heart. Every ache, every twitch, every restless night is a syllable in the language of endurance, a message that says, notice this, pay attention. This is important. The body is an archive of your hidden pain. People think they can hide it, disguise it, distract themselves from it, but the body remembers. The tension in your shoulders, the clench in your jaw, the way your stomach knots at certain memories, all of it is testimony. The body refuses to lie because the soul is too stubborn. It insists on being acknowledged. even when the mind wants to suppress, even when the world wants you to pretend everything is fine. You can fake a smile, you can speak in casual tones, you can act unaffected, but deep, down in the quiet, the body is screaming. The truth. Pain teaches things that comfort never can. It strips away illusions, exposes lies, and removes the thin veneers of pretense you've built around your life. You think you're strong, or smart, or prepared, but suffering has a way of testing you that nothing else can. It forces honesty. It forces confrontation. It forces you to meet yourself fully, without disguise, without excuse. You feel every raw edge, every sharp corner of your own being, and you realize that the person you thought you were was only a shadow of what you could endure, of what you could become. And here's the cruel beauty of suffering. It doesn't announce itself with clarity. It arrives in fragments, in whispers, in the small, almost imperceptible cracks in your life. A missed call, a lost opportunity, a quiet betrayal, an unspoken truth, these are the seeds. And when they accumulate, when the small fractures connect, the weight becomes undeniable. That's when it hits in full force. And the full force of suffering is not comfortable. It rattles the mind, shakes the soul, and awakens every dormant fear you've been hiding from. But it also awakens something else, the possibility of change, the chance to see yourself as you really are beneath all the pretense. People fear suffering because they equate it with weakness. They see the trembling hands, the tight chest, the racing heart, and assume it is a signal of failure. But it is the opposite. Those tremors are signs of life, proof that you are still in the arena, that you are still capable of feeling, of enduring, of transforming. Each moment of pain is a test, not of your limits, but of your resilience. It doesn't break you unless you allow it to. It challenges you to choose, will you succumb to it, or will you let it forge you into something stronger, sharper, more awake? And suffering doesn't only teach endurance, it teaches empathy. When you sit long enough with your own pain, you start to notice it in others. The quiet tension in a friend's eyes, the nervous laugh of a stranger, the hesitance in someone's voice, they all start to speak the same language your body has been speaking for months or years. You become fluent in the dialect of struggle, understanding that everyone carries invisible weight. And with that understanding comes a strange kind of power, the power to be compassionate, to be patient, to be real. The kind of power that doesn't rely on privilege or luck, only on the depth of your own experience. Suffering is relentless because it is essential. It will not ask for permission. It will not wait for readiness. It will continue pressing, gnawing, reminding, until you finally pay attention. And when you do, when you stop running, when you allow yourself to feel it fully, to let it move through you instead of against you, something shifts. The edges of your soul sharpen, your awareness expands, and the raw material of your pain is transformed into something enduring, something unshakable, something alive. That is the paradox of suffering. It is unbearable, and yet it is the crucible through which you are forged into. Your regret is a funny thing. People treat it like a curse, something to be feared, something to hide. But the truth is, it's the most honest reflection of what you care about. It creeps in quietly at first, slipping through your mind like a shadow, then grows heavier the longer you ignore it. It comes in memories, in what-ifs, in every choice you didn't make, every word you didn't say, every action you wish you could undo. You can try to bury it, but regret has teeth. It gnaws at the edges of your thoughts, sharp and unrelenting, until you're forced to confront it, whether you want to or not. You feel it in your chest, in that tightness that never seems to go away. It wraps itself around your ribs, your lungs, your heart, and reminds you of every misstep, every failure, every disappointment. People tell you to move on, to forgive yourself, to let it go. But it doesn't work like that. Regret isn't meant to vanish. It's meant to teach, to illuminate the places you ignored, the choices you compromised, the truths you refused to see. It's not a punishment, it's a mirror that doesn't lie, a mirror that forces you to look at yourself fully, without excuses, without pretense. And here's the cruel thing. Regret isn't passive. It doesn't wait quietly for you to notice. It grows, it shifts, it rearranges the landscape of your thoughts until the past is alive in the present. You see the faces of those you hurt, the moments you missed, the opportunities you ignored, and it stings like acid. You try to distract yourself with work, with noise, with company, but the shadows follow. They find their way into the quiet moments, the empty rooms, the sleepless nights. That's when you realize regret isn't an enemy, it's a companion. One that doesn't leave until you face it. You think you can run from it, but regret is stubborn. It finds cracks in your defenses, slips through gaps in your armor, and plants seeds of reflection in places you didn't expect. You notice patterns in your life, echoes of old choices, and the realization hits that everything you avoided, everything you ignored, everything you denied, comes back to you with interest. That's the danger and the beauty of regret. It is precise. It doesn't exaggerate. It doesn't distort. It shows you exactly what you need to see, no more, no less. The strange part is, regret isn't always negative. It carries within it the blueprint for transformation. It exposes the weak spots in your character, the places where your integrity faltered, the ways you've compromised your truth. And if you pay attention, if you allow it to guide you instead of torment you, it becomes a teacher. Every pang, every memory, every whisper of what could have been is a dispersion, signal, a direction pointing toward growth. But most people ignore the signals. They fight them, numb them, pretend they aren't there. And that's why regret turns toxic. It isn't the feeling that kills, it's the refusal to understand it, the refusal to learn from it. People fear regret because they see it as a reflection of failure, of weakness, of mistakes that define them. But the truth is, it's one of the most honest indicators of what matters to you. What you regret most is often what you valued most, what you allowed to slip away, what you refused to fight for. That's why it burns. It's not random, it's purposeful. It forces awareness. It forces honesty. It forces you to confront the person you've been and the person you want to become, and regret doesn't just live in your head, it lives in your body. The tension in your shoulders, the ache in your chest, the restless energy that won't let you sleep. All of it is a manifestation of unresolved choices, of ignored opportunities, of unspoken truths. You can cover it with distraction, with laughter, with routine, but it never disappears. It only waits, quietly, until the moment you can't ignore it anymore. That's when it speaks loudest, and if you're paying attention, you start to hear the lessons hidden in the pain. The irony of regret is that it's relentless, yet it's merciful. It won't let you settle for mediocrity, for lies, for avoidance. It demands clarity. It demands confrontation. It demands truth. And when you finally listen, when you finally embrace it, something shifts. The weight starts to teach you, to sharpen you, to guide you toward the person you could have been if you had faced your choices, if you had taken the risks, if you had spoken the words. That's the paradox of regret. It hurts because it's honest, and it's honest because it wants you to grow, to awaken, to stop hiding from yourself. Regret is the unseen mentor, the quiet observer, the unyielding reminder that life is happening, choices matter, and time does not wait. It's uncomfortable, relentless, and unavoidable, but it is also necessary. It is a mirror, a map, a message. It exposes the corners of your life that need attention, the shadows that need light, the truths that need facing. And if you let it, if you sit with it long enough to understand, you realize that regret is not the end of your story. It's the part of your story that forces you to see the path ahead clearly, the part that sharpens your vision, the part that readies you for what comes next. Anguish has a way of entering quietly at first, a whisper at the edge of your mind, barely noticeable until it grows sharp and insistent. It settles in your chest, coils in your stomach, and whispers to every nerve ending that something is wrong, that something has been overlooked. People try to ignore it. They tell themselves it's temporary, that it will fade with time, or they distract themselves with noise and motion. But anguish doesn't care about convenience. It doesn't bend to comfort. It waits, patient and relentless, until you confront it. And when you do, you realize it's not just pain, it's the echo of truth speaking through suffering. You feel it in the restless hours of the night, when the world is silent and all pretense falls away. The heart pounds, the mind races, and memories unbidden rise to the surface, sharp and unwelcome. It's not the kind of discomfort that can be silenced with laughter or conversation. It digs deeper, into the marrow, into the very fabric of your being. And in that depth, you realize that anguish is a teacher that does not sugarcoat, that does not excuse, that does not care about your excuses. It forces honesty, forcing you to face the fractures in your life you have long avoided. Most people fear the intensity of this internal storm. They see the trembling hands, the racing pulse, the shallow breaths, and assume it is weakness. But it is the opposite. That intensity is proof of life, of consciousness, of engagement with reality. Anguish shows where the soul has been suppressed, where the desires, fears, and truths that have been ignored are demanding attention. It is the weight of existence pressing on you, and every moment of endurance is an unspoken act of courage. To sit with it, to feel it, to let it pass through you instead of running, is to confront yourself fully. And the world doesn't help. It prefers the polished, the smiling, the put together. People are quick to offer platitudes, to advise moving on, to insist that it's only temporary. But anguish does not respect platitudes. It cannot be rushed, forced, or hidden. It waits in the quiet, in the stillness, in the cracks between the moments where you try to appear normal. And if ignored, it grows sharper, more insistent, breaking through your defenses in unpredictable ways. The body, the mind, the soul, they all carry the imprint of it in tremors, tension, and restless nights. There is a strange beauty in the relentlessness of anguish. It refuses to let you settle for lies or illusions. It strips away the distractions, the comfort, the false identities you hide behind, until you are faced with the raw, unpolished truth. It doesn't come to destroy, it comes to awaken. Every ache, every pulse, every tight breath is a signal, a guidepost pointing toward a version of yourself that cannot be accessed without the intensity of feeling. That is the paradox. What terrifies you, What shakes you to your core is also what is forging the real, unflinching version of you. And yet, most people fight it. They try to numb, to escape, to distract themselves. They fear the depth because it is unknown, uncontrollable, because it demands surrender. But surrender is not weakness, it is acknowledgement. It is recognition that the process cannot be bypassed, that growth cannot be rushed, that clarity cannot be purchased. Anguish does not bend, it compels. And through that compulsion, you learn about resilience, endurance, and the capacity for transformation that had remained dormant until confronted by intensity. It shows you where the past lingers, unprocessed, unhealed. Every memory, every unresolved grievance, every choice left unexamined becomes amplified until the weight cannot be ignored. The body responds first: tight shoulders, clenched jaw, restless nights, stomach churns, fatigue that is both physical and emotional. Then the mind follows, racing, questioning, turning over every possibility, every failure, every what if. The soul waits silently, waiting for recognition, for acknowledgement, for the acceptance of its own truth. Anguish is also mercilessly honest. It does not lie. It does not mislead. It strips away the illusions that comfort you and forces you to face the realities you have long avoided. You can try to explain it away, rationalize it, distract yourself, but its presence will not relent. And in facing it, in enduring it, in allowing yourself to experience it fully, you discover something profound. The fire of anguish refines rather than destroys, shapes rather than breaks, illuminates rather than blinds. It is a forge, and you are being tempered within its heat. The human capacity for endurance is revealed only through confrontation with this kind of intensity. The trembling hands, the racing heart, the restless mind, they are signs, not of failure, but of life being lived fully. The moments when you feel most exposed, most vulnerable, are also the moments when growth takes root. Because anguish does not come to harm, it comes to awaken, to force the confrontation with self that the world cannot provide, to demand recognition of the truth that has been waiting in the shadows, until you are ready to see it, to feel it, and to emerge from it transformed. Hopelessness creeps in quietly at first, like a shadow stretching across a room you thought was safe. You don't notice it immediately. You're busy surviving, pretending everything is fine, laughing when it's forced, nodding when it's convenient, masking the gnawing emptiness inside. But it doesn't stay quiet for long. It seeps into your thoughts, your words, your actions. It whispers questions you can't answer, doubts you can't ignore, fears you can't push away. And suddenly, the weight of it all presses down like a physical thing, an invisible hand gripping your chest and squeezing until you wonder if you can breathe at all. People panic when hopelessness strikes. They try to fill the void with distractions, with noise, with mindless movement. They tell themselves that if they stay busy, the feeling will vanish. But it doesn't. Hopelessness is not a guest you can shoo away. It is persistent, relentless, and unflinching. It doesn't care about convenience or timing. It comes when you're alone, when your defenses are down, when you're most vulnerable. And it teaches you something very uncomfortable. Survival is not about waiting for rescue. It's about endurance, about meeting the void face to face and refusing to let it consume you. You feel it in every part of your body, the tightness in your chest, the heaviness in your limbs, the restlessness that keeps your mind spinning in circles. You try to distract yourself with the things that used to bring comfort, but they fail. Even laughter becomes hollow. Even familiar voices feel distant. That's because hopelessness doesn't want to be ignored. It insists on being recognized. It forces confrontation with the truths you've been avoiding. And if you pay attention, if you sit with it long enough to truly feel it, it becomes more than just pain. It becomes a teacher, a guide to the depth of your own endurance. And there is a strange, unsettling clarity in hopelessness. When everything you relied on to feel safe falls away, when the masks you wore are stripped from your face, when the illusions that comforted you are destroyed, you are left with yourself. Raw, unpolished, unprotected, and in that rawness, you begin to see who you really are. You see the parts of yourself you've neglected, the strength you've underestimated, the resilience you didn't know existed. Hopelessness doesn't just take it, also reveals. It exposes the hidden reservoirs inside you, the power you forgot you had, the courage that has been waiting quietly for a chance to rise. People fear hopelessness because they confuse intensity with weakness. They see trembling hands, racing thoughts, and pounding hearts, and assume they are losing control. But the truth is, those signs are evidence of life, of consciousness, of the capacity to feel deeply, even when it's painful. They are proof that you are not dead inside, proof that your soul is awake enough to endure, proof that you have not yet surrendered to despair. Every moment of tension, every restless night, every heartbeat that fights against the heaviness is a victory, small but undeniable. And hopelessness teaches patience. It teaches that growth is not linear, that recovery is not instant, that endurance is built in the spaces where you feel most incapable. It shows you that life does not always provide comfort, and that often the only path forward is through the weight itself. You cannot rush it, you cannot ignore it, you cannot pretend it isn't there. You must meet it, you must feel it, you must move through it, step by trembling step. And in doing so, you discover strength you didn't know you had. It also teaches empathy. When you have sat in the depths of hopelessness, you begin to recognize it in others. The quiet despair in someone's eyes, the way their hands tremble when they try to hold it together, the way they speak around their pain, all of it becomes familiar. You learn to see what others cannot hide, and in that recognition, you find connection. You realize that nobody escapes suffering untouched, and that the shared experience of endurance is one of the most profound bonds that can exist. Hopelessness is unflinching, but it is not your enemy. It strips away illusions, exposes truths, and forces confrontation with yourself. It teaches endurance, patience, empathy, and resilience. It awakens the parts of you that have been dormant, waiting for a test you didn't know was coming. And if you lean into it, if you allow yourself to feel it fully without running, you realize that hopelessness is not a sentence, it is a crucible. It is the furnace in which courage is forged, where strength is discovered, where the quiet power of survival is revealed, and where the soul learns that even in the darkest void, the capacity to endure is limitless. You ever get that feeling deep inside your skin, like something's crawling beneath it? Not pain, not fear, just a pressure, a strange kind of tension that whispers, something's coming. You try to ignore it, shake it off, distract yourself with noise, with people, with comfort. But it doesn't stop. It builds. Day by day, thought by thought. Like your body knows something your mind refuses to admit. People call it anxiety, restlessness, frustration, but it's not that. It's transformation. Something inside you is trying to escape the shell you've been hiding in. You've been suppressing it for too long, your potential, your truth, your power. And now, your body can't contain it anymore. That's why you feel heavy when you wake up, why your chest tightens for no reason, why silence feels so loud, because something within you is getting ready to break free. You know that pressure you feel sometimes? That strange, invisible weight pressing against your chest, crawling beneath your skin, like something's trying to escape, but you don't know what it is. You think it's stress, maybe overthinking, maybe just another bad day, but deep down, you know it's more than that. It's not random, it's not chaos, it's a message. Pressure is never the enemy, it's a sign. A signal that something inside you is getting too big to stay silent. That something is transforming, reshaping, demanding to be born. You can feel it, can't you? The tension in your thoughts, the restlessness in your bones, the fire in your gut that refuses to die down. That's not fear. That's transformation, trying to break through. See, people run from pressure like it's punishment. They panic. They distract themselves. They try to silence it with comfort, with noise, with lies. But pressure isn't there to destroy you. It's there to expose you, to push out everything fake, everything weak, everything borrowed that's been covering who you really are. It's like a storm in your veins, uncomfortable, unpredictable, but necessary, because nothing new comes without pressure. Diamonds, purpose, power, they all come from the same furnace. It hurts, it burns, but that's the only way something real is born. You've been feeling it for a while, haven't you? That uneasiness that no amount of rest can fix. That feeling like you're standing on the edge of something, but you don't know what. You're not crazy. You're evolving. The version of you that used to fit in, used to settle, used to pretend it's suffocating now. It can't breathe in the same old routine. That's why you feel off. That's why everything around you feels too tight, too small, because your spirit's expanding while your world tries to stay the same. And when that happens, the body starts to revolt. It sends signals, shakes your peace, forces you to move. That's the pressure. It's not meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up. The funny thing is, most people don't realize what's happening. They call it anxiety. They call it burnout. They call it bad luck. But what if it's not falling apart? What if it's you being rebuilt from the inside out? The old energy breaking down so the new one can rise. The shell cracking open so the light can escape. Pressure is just the sound of your limits being stretched. You can't step into something greater while clinging to what's safe. So life squeezes you. It tightens the grip until you finally stop resisting and start becoming. There's a reason it feels personal, because it is. Transformation doesn't come as a gentle invitation. It comes as a breakdown, as a silence, as a fire that won't go out. It visits you when you're least ready and whispers, "It's time." That's the truth about pressure. It never asks for permission. It arrives when the universe knows you're capable of handling more than you think. When you've carried enough pain to turn it into purpose. When the small life you settled for can no longer contain the power you've grown into. And so, it builds inside you until it can't be ignored anymore. But here's what most people miss. Pressure is a privilege. Not everyone gets chosen to carry it. It's proof that something is being formed within you. Proof that life hasn't given up on you. Because the day you stop feeling that pull, that tension, that inner resistance, that's the day you've stopped growing. Pressure means potential. It means you're still alive enough to become dangerous again, unpredictable again, alive again. That's why it won't leave you alone. It wants to pull the greatness out of you, even if it has to break a few walls to do it. So don't fear the weight. Let it sit on your shoulders. Let it shake you, stretch you, challenge you. Because that pressure you feel, it's not punishment. It's proof. Proof that the old you is crumbling and the new you is rising. You don't need to escape it. You just need to endure it long enough for it to reveal what it's been hiding. Because pressure doesn't destroy what's real. It only breaks what was never meant to last. And somewhere inside that chaos, that noise, that pulse, you'll find the beginning of something you've never seen before. The body never lies. It's the one thing that tells the truth when your mouth refuses to. You can pretend to be fine. You can smile through the pain. You can convince everyone you're okay, but your body knows better. It remembers every sleepless night, every heartbreak, every buried emotion you thought you got rid of. You think you've moved on, but your body keeps the score. It shows you through tension, through fatigue, through that ache in your chest you can't explain. The body is the last mask to fall, and when it does, it reveals what the soul has been trying to say all along. You see, the soul whispers, but the body screams. It warns you when something's off, when you've ignored too much for too long. That headache, that tightness, that restless energy, it's not random. It's your soul's frustration breaking through flesh. Because when you silence your truth, your body starts talking louder. It's not punishing you. It's protecting you. It's saying, something's wrong, pay attention. And the longer you resist, the louder it gets. You think it's sickness, but sometimes it's just the weight of pretending crushing your spirit. People spend their lives trying to medicate what's meant to be understood. They chase cures, routines, distractions, trying to quiet what's meant to be heard. But the body doesn't want silence, it wants acknowledgement. It's not against you, it's with you. Every pain, every twitch, every heartbeat out of rhythm. It's your inner truth trying to break the surface. The body and soul are partners in crime, and when one suffers, the other bleeds. You can't separate them, no matter how hard you try. You can fake words, fake smiles, fake confidence, but the body exposes what you hide. Think about it. Why do you feel heavy when you're sad? Why do your hands shake when you're afraid? Why does your stomach twist when you lie to yourself? Because emotion isn't just mental, it's physical. The soul translates its feelings through the body. Every secret you keep, every wound you deny, becomes energy that has to go somewhere. It doesn't disappear. It hides in your posture, your heartbeat, your breath. The body becomes a map of everything you've endured, every story you didn't tell. You can cover it with perfume and smiles, but truth has a scent of its own, and it always seeps through. The body doesn't betray, it warns. It feels before the mind accepts. It knows when someone isn't right for you before your heart admits it. It knows when you're in the wrong place before your thoughts catch up. That discomfort you feel in certain rooms, that sudden fatigue around certain people, that's your body's way of saying, get out. But we ignore it because logic likes to argue with intuition. The mind wants to explain everything, but the body simply knows. It doesn't need proof. It senses energy, vibration, alignment. You can lie to your mind, but you can't lie to your nervous system. You've been at war with your own vessel for too long, forcing it to carry emotions it didn't ask for, silencing it when it tries to speak. You call it discipline, but it's really denial. You push through exhaustion, through pain, through those gut feelings that beg you to stop. And then one day, It snaps. You break down not because you're weak, but because the body finally says, enough. It's the rebellion of truth against suppression. Every tear, every tremor, every sudden outburst, it's your body releasing what your soul can no longer hold in silence. Funny, isn't it? How people trust everything outside of them. Their phones, their followers, their bosses, but not their own bodies. The only home they'll ever truly live in, and they treat it like a stranger. The body is the temple, the battlefield, and the witness. It feels what your words refuse to speak. It carries what your spirit can't yet let go of. Every scar, every mark, every pulse, it's all a conversation between what's seen and what's hidden. You can cover it with strength, but the body still whispers the truth when no one's listening. And that's the thing, when something is meant to rise, the body becomes the first to react. You start shaking, sweating, pacing. That's not fear, that's your energy shifting, trying to adapt to a higher version of yourself. It's your shell cracking under the pressure of evolution. That's what transformation feels like, not peace, not calm, but chaos inside your skin. The body is the messenger of the soul's awakening. It doesn't ask if you're ready, it just begins. Because deep down, it knows the truth you've been avoiding all along. You can't hide from what's already growing inside you. You ever notice how people think they can bury the truth and walk away clean? They think if they don't talk about it, if they laugh loud enough, distract themselves long enough, it'll just vanish. But the thing about truth is, it doesn't die in silence. It festers. It grows teeth. It waits. You can hide it for a while, but not forever. Because what's been suppressed always finds its way out. The truth is, like smoke in a locked room, it always escapes through the cracks. The longer you keep it buried, the louder it screams to be released. You've been carrying it, haven't you? That thing you don't talk about. The secret, the regret, the disappointment you try to disguise as strength. You think you're protecting yourself, but you're really suffocating. The weight doesn't go away just because you ignore it. It lives inside your body, inside your breath, inside the way your heart races when someone gets too close to the truth. Suppressed emotions don't disappear, they transform into restlessness, into exhaustion, into that strange emptiness that no amount of success can fill. That's what happens when truth is held hostage. It starts leaking out through the cracks in your soul. You tell yourself it's not the right time, that you're fine, that you've moved on. But the truth doesn't care about timing. It doesn't respect schedules. It'll rise up at 3 a.m. when you're trying to sleep, whispering through your thoughts, haunting your silence. You'll feel it in your chest like a storm that won't pass. You can numb it with distractions, drown it in noise, but the truth always resurfaces, because it doesn't want to hurt you, it wants to free you. But freedom has a cost, and most people are too afraid to pay it. You see, every time you suppress something real, you give it power. You make it stronger. It becomes part of your identity without your permission. That pain you didn't process becomes the filter through which you see the world. Every conversation, every relationship, every opportunity, it all gets touched by what you refuse to release. You start reacting instead of living. You start protecting your wounds instead of healing them. And that's when life begins to feel heavier, slower, smaller. Because nothing grows in the dark, not even you. The truth is, suppression is an illusion of control. You think you're managing it, but really, it's managing you. Every time you swallow your emotions, your body remembers. It stores them like bombs, waiting for the right moment to explode. And when they do, you call it a breakdown. But it's not a breakdown, it's a breakthrough that refused to wait any longer. That's why people cry out of nowhere, why they snap without warning, why they feel lost even when everything looks fine on the outside. The soul eventually rebels against silence. There's a certain kind of madness in pretending, the kind that eats you slowly, one fake smile at a time. You start to lose track of who you really are beneath all the roles you play. The good one, the strong one, the unbothered one, but deep down there's a voice begging to be heard. The part of you that's tired of pretending, tired of hiding, tired of being fine. And when you ignore it long enough, it starts finding other ways out. Through your health, your temper, your fatigue. The truth doesn't knock politely, it breaks the door down when you've ignored it too long. Funny thing is, when the truth finally comes out, it doesn't destroy you like you thought it would. It liberates you. It strips you of the lies you thought you needed to survive. It hurts, yes, but only because you were holding on to something that was never meant to stay inside you. People fear release because they confuse it with weakness. But it's the opposite. Letting go takes strength. Speaking up takes courage. Being honest takes more power than pretending ever will. And the body, the mind, the soul, they all sigh in relief. When you finally stop holding it in, you can only contain pressure for so long before it demands to be released. It might come out as tears, as anger, as silence, as art, but it will come out. Because no matter how much you suppress, the truth always finds its way to the surface. It doesn't ask for your permission, and it doesn't care about your comfort. It just wants to be seen. It wants to breathe. It wants to live outside of you. Because when truth stays trapped inside, it poisons everything. But when it's released, it purifies everything it touches. That's the irony of it all. The thing you've been afraid to let out is the very thing that will finally set you free. You ever notice how everything feels darkest right before something shifts? Like the world's closing in, every light's gone out, and you're left sitting in the quiet wondering if this is it. That heavy silence, that ache in your chest, that weight that doesn't seem to move, it's not the end. It's the tension before transformation. People think darkness means defeat, but they forget that even the dawn has to wait its turn. The night doesn't fall to destroy you. It falls to prepare you. It's the pause before the rise, the breath before the breakthrough. You just don't see it yet because your eyes haven't adjusted to the dark. That's the problem with people. They panic in the dark. They think if they can't see the path, there isn't one. But the truth is, light doesn't teach you faith, darkness does. Anyone can walk when everything's clear. But it takes something deeper, something raw to keep walking when all you've got is instinct. That's where the real ones are born. Not in comfort, not in celebration, but in those long, quiet nights where you question everything and still choose to keep breathing. That's where your strength sharpens. That's where the version of you that can handle the light starts taking shape. You think the dark means you're lost, but maybe it means you're being hidden from what's not ready for you. Or maybe what you're not ready for. Sometimes the delay isn't punishment, it's protection, because if you saw what was coming too soon, you might run. So you're kept in the dark, not because you're forgotten, but because you're being refined. There's a process in pain, a rhythm in silence. You just can't hear it when you're busy trying to escape it. You don't realize that every breakdown, every sleepless night, every unanswered prayer, it's all shaping you into someone who can carry what's next. People crave the light, but they forget what it costs. You can't handle the sunrise until you've survived the night. You can't appreciate peace until you've been through chaos. You can't see clearly until you've been blinded by doubt. The darkness isn't against you, it's training you. It's teaching you to feel instead of just see, to listen to what's inside instead of what's around, to rely on faith when sight fails you. It's the silence where strength is born, where vision sharpens, where purpose whispers in the language of pain. That's the place where destiny starts breathing. It's funny, isn't it? How we beg for miracles, then complain when life gives us the dark. As if miracles don't need pressure, as if light doesn't need contrast. You can't know what victory tastes like until you've choked on defeat. The darkness is just the echo before the shift, the moment life checks if you're serious about what you prayed for. You said you wanted strength, so it gave you struggle. You wanted clarity, so it took away the noise. You wanted growth, so it buried you. The night isn't there to punish you, it's there to prove you. The quiet parts of your story are the ones that hold the most power. Because when everything's stripped away, no applause, no validation, no certainty, that's when you meet yourself. That's when you find out what you're really made of. People run from that silence, but that's where the real answers live. It's where you learn that light isn't something you chase, it's something you build, inside. In the middle of all that doubt, fear, and exhaustion, that's how you learn that the darkness doesn't end you. It reveals you. It peels away everything false until only what's real remains. And the beautiful part is, darkness always collapses under its own weight. It never lasts. It may feel endless, but it's not eternal. Every night eventually gives in to morning, no matter how long it lingers. The key is not to fight it, but to endure it. Because somewhere in that silence, something's shifting. The things that broke you are bending into alignment. The pain that haunted you is being turned into purpose. The light doesn't rush in it, waits for you to be ready to handle it. And when it finally comes, it won't be subtle. It'll hit you in ways you can't explain. You'll look back and realize the darkness wasn't your downfall, it was your proving ground. It didn't come to destroy you. It came to prepare you for the kind of light that doesn't fade. You ever notice how people panic when something ends? They cry, they curse. They cling to what's slipping away as if the world's falling apart. They call it loss. They call it failure. But what if it's not any of that? What if it's just alignment? See, endings aren't always punishment, they're direction. Life has a strange way of closing doors that lead nowhere, of burning bridges that were only taking you in circles. You think something's being taken from you, but maybe it's being cleared out of your way. Because sometimes the things you hold on to aren't keeping you safe, they're keeping you stuck. You think you're losing something valuable. But maybe what's really happening is that the universe is creating space for something that actually fits. You don't see it yet, so you call it pain. You call it unfair. But the truth is, what feels like destruction is just redesign. It's your story rearranging itself into something that makes sense later. Alignment doesn't always feel gentle. Sometimes it rips. Sometimes it tears. Because the parts of you that don't belong in your next chapter have to be stripped away before you can turn the page. It's strange, isn't it? How endings always show up disguised as chaos. You think you're being punished, but maybe you're being redirected. That relationship that fell apart, that dream that didn't work, that opportunity that vanished, it wasn't rejection. It was a redirection. You were never meant to build forever out of temporary things. You were never meant to make a home in what was only meant to be a lesson. But you stayed too long, didn't you? You ignored the signs, the silence, the gut feeling. So life had to step in and pull it away before it ruined you. That's not cruelty, that's mercy. People always talk about wanting purpose, wanting clarity, wanting peace, but they forget that to get there, things have to end, the storm has to come, the comfort has to die. You can't grow in a room that no longer fits you. You can't hear the next call if you're still busy mourning the last one. Endings are how life resets your focus. They break the illusion that you were ever in control. They remind you that not everything is supposed to stay. Not everyone is supposed to finish the journey with you. Some things are just meant to wake you up. You see, alignment doesn't ask for your permission, it demands your surrender. It's not a polite knock on the door. It's a demolition. It takes what doesn't serve you, even when you're not ready to let it go. Because deep down, life knows better than you do. You think you're losing your way, but really, you're being rerouted. You think you're falling apart, but you're just shedding. And it's painful, because you've tied your identity to what was never meant to stay. But endings aren't cruel, they're corrective. They're how the universe fixes what you refuse to see. There's a certain beauty in watching everything collapse. The moment you stop fighting it, you start to see the pattern. The way things fall into place once you stop forcing them. The peace that comes when you realize you don't have to chase what's already yours. Alignment feels like loss only because you're still attached to the version of you that can't see beyond the pain. But when you step back, when you breathe, you'll notice how what left your life actually made room for what's real. The people who walked away cleared the path for the ones who were meant to stay. The doors that closed forced you to knock on the right ones. The silence that scared you taught you how to listen. It's almost poetic, the way endings reveal beginnings. You think something's over, but really, something else is starting in the ashes. The fire wasn't meant to destroy you, it was meant to purify you, to burn off everything false until all that's left is truth. That's what alignment really is, truth taking shape. The truth of who you are, what you need, where you're meant to go. It's not neat, it's not peaceful, but it's real. And once you understand that, you stop begging for things to stay. You start trusting what leaves. You start thanking what ends. So don't curse the endings. Don't drown in what's gone. Because every ending, no matter how painful, is a message written in divine timing. You might not read it today, but someday you'll understand why it had to happen exactly the way it did. You'll realize it wasn't punishment, it was alignment. Life wasn't taking something from you, it was making space for the version of you that was finally ready to rise. You ever notice how everyone waits for the right moment to begin? They wait for a sign, for approval, for the perfect time that never actually comes. They tell themselves, one day, like time owes them something. But the truth is, there's no grand opening for purpose, no spotlight waiting to shine on you. It doesn't start when the world notices, it starts when you decide to move, when you realize that what you've been waiting for is already inside you. That's the thing most people never figure out. Winning doesn't begin when everyone's watching. It starts in silence, when no one believes, when no one claps, when no one sees the fight you're in. You keep thinking the moment will come when everything feels right, but it won't. It never does. The ground's never steady, the timing's never perfect, and the world's never ready. You start anyway, because the real win isn't about applause, it's about endurance. It's about those mornings you drag yourself up when you don't want to, those nights you choose to keep going when every part of you wants to quit. Winning isn't a moment, it's a mindset. It's not something you wait for, it's something you declare long before it's visible. And that's what most people don't understand. You win in the dark long before you're crowned in the light. You see, Monday isn't just a day, it's the test. It's when all the promises you made to yourself meet reality. Everyone's motivated on Sunday night, full of energy and plans. But when the alarm hits and the world gets loud, that's when the truth shows. That's when you find out if your faith was real or just fantasy. Because the real battles aren't loud, they're quiet. They happen in your head, in your habits, in the way you talk to yourself when no one's around. And if you can win there, if you can conquer that private chaos, then the rest of the world doesn't stand a chance. Funny thing about people, they think victory looks glamorous. They see the success, the recognition, the celebration, and they call that winning. But they don't see the part before the rejection, the doubt, the waiting, the loneliness, the nights you question if it's even worth it, the mornings you fight your reflection just to keep believing. That's where the real war happens. And if you can't survive that part, you'll never make it to the part everyone applauds. Because winning doesn't come to those who are lucky. It comes to those who are consistent enough to keep walking, even when the finish line disappears in the fog. The truth is, the world doesn't owe you recognition for your effort. You owe yourself the discipline to keep going regardless. That's the real victory, self-control, when everything inside you wants to stop. It's easy to show up when things are good. It's easy to be positive when the path is clear. But when the road gets rough, when no one's watching, when it feels like nothing's moving, that's where champions are made. In the silence, in the grind, in the refusal to give up on something no one else can see but you. And that's what people miss about winning. It's not a moment. It's a decision you make every single day. You decide to get back up. You decide to show up again. You decide not to let failure define you. That's the difference between those who talk and those who transform. Because at the end of it all, the spotlight doesn't create the winner, it just exposes what's already been built in the dark. The habits, the resilience, the pain, it all adds up. Every time you said no to giving up. Every time you chose to move forward when you didn't feel ready. Every time you believed in something no one else did, that's winning. You think Monday's just another day. But Monday is the battlefield. It's the day that separates intention from action. It's when all the motivation, all the words, all the dreams get tested by reality. It's where you prove to life that you mean what you say. You either show up or you fall back into comfort. You either rise or you repeat. That's the truth. People avoid winning isn't waiting for miracles. It's building momentum when everything tells you to stop. The spirit wins first. Then the body follows. Then the world takes notice. That's how victory works. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't knock politely. It erupts from the ones who refuse to quit when no one was watching. It's born from the silence, shaped by pain, sharpened by discipline. So when the world finally sees you standing in the light, they'll call it sudden. They'll say it came out of nowhere. But you'll know it didn't start there. It started the day you looked at yourself in the mirror and decided that no matter what happens, you won't stop until the victory inside you becomes visible on the outside.